Thank you. Thanks for the invite. I'm very happy to be here. It's fun to be back in Linköping. My wife studied here 10 years ago, so we had an apartment just a few hundred meters away from here. But I was mostly on the golf course back then. But it's nice to be here. My start of the presentation will be this background with some sound on. We couldn't get the sound on here. I think it was a good opportunity to bring out this nice picture. I think a lot of times I get shit from having a dry sense of humor. I think probably a few guys in this room have the same sense of humor as me. They can appreciate this kind of nice Microsoft Windows 95 pictures as a start. I also think it's important in every job, but especially in hockey, it's easy to get stuck in losses, that you have an on and off button, have some fun at the same time as you do your hard work. And I also think I had a discussion with Sam Hallam at the Swedish national team, and he told me, how can we make this PowerPoint presentation more fun? And then I said, you just change it to Comic Sans. That's the easiest way of making it fun in a PowerPoint. But he didn't understand that, but I think it was a really good joke. And also a nice DVD video logotype is perfect to get in some laughter as a start. And from that we go, the on and off button, have some fun at the same time as we work. I think it's very important. For me, last year, it's been shit work-wise. Got fired, we lost against Latvia. We were up 3-0 in the finals in Switzerland, but lost 4-3. So it's important for me to have that green perspective from now on. I started my career as a student, being an intern at the Federation. Also had my own company doing different video projects. So I'm a video guy. I'm not a stats guy if you put them in different boxes. And then I worked with the Swedish Federation for 10 years, doing video coaching and also a lot of educational materials. The last 4 years being in Cedis Alliance in Switzerland, being the assistant coach, where I did power play, I did the forward, I did the face-off, but I was not on the bench. So people was asking me, how can you be a coach when you're not on the bench? And that's a bit different how you can be in hockey, but connect those situations as well. But it was fun years in Switzerland, a tough ending, but I learned a lot of stuff. And this spring, I was working with Team Sweden as the scouting coach during the World Championship as well. But mostly being a full-time dad at home, which is the most difficult job I've ever had. From now on, I'm going to work with some presentations. I'm going to have my own company doing consulting. I'm going to do different projects. I'm going to connect with a Finnish company called Vima Hockey, who work with individual player development in Finland. They have had a lot of Finnish players. They work with Heiskanen, Aho, and Saros, for example. The basic idea of Vima Hockey is that you work with video feedback, face-to-face online meetings with the players. They get individual feedback in tactics, in technique, connected with summer practices, and also the physical part of the summer practice, so everything is connected. The basic idea for Vima Hockey is do it in the game. We're not going to go around and skate on the elbows. We're going to develop in-game skills that work. A few teams in Finland have also used Vima to develop the tough draft prospects, to give them an extra input for development. This presentation is going to be a lot of different examples on video and statistics, a lot of basics. I think basic is a really good word. You shouldn't be afraid of using the word basic and easy. And also how to connect video and statistics in a team. Some examples on how you can do it. Feel free to just throw in questions anytime. I think one of the few things that changed during my 18 years of working with video and statistics, that before you had to do the statistics yourself. And the last few years have been amazingly with a lot of great companies building up platforms that save so much time working with video. But it's also made it more difficult to be a coach, but get so much information that it's very important to select what's important for yourself, for your team, and for the players. But for myself, I saved so much time and energy for this platform. So I'm very, very grateful for those. One thing that I can do sometimes, and also I think could be a problem, is that it's important to focus on how to get good stats, not only the evaluation part of it. It's easy for myself to dig into the numbers, to look through the videos, to get all the knowledge into myself. But sometimes for myself, it gets stuck here. I can connect with my coaching staff a little bit on some topics, and sometimes we don't even talk to it with the players. So it's more like an office product, if you understand what I mean. So for me, it's important because it builds so big analytics teams, so big coaching staff teams, that they work together. I think that's a really important thing for all the people working with analytics. I was fortunate to work traveling around North America a few years ago to visit the Avalanche coaching staff, having a meeting with their analytics team. And that was very interesting to see how they work together, how they connect the numbers, how they had a knowledge of it in the coaching staff on a lot of those situations that I think is difficult for coaches to understand. I think that's a great barrier to break, because it's difficult for a lot of coaches, myself included, to understand all the metrics and all the numbers. And also in hockey, it's a game. A lot of activities a player does during a game, it's difficult to measure, but it's very important for the outcome of the game. If you have a couple of situations, if you start with reading the game, do you have any coaches in here that think that's important for the players? A few. But how do you measure reading the game? It's very difficult. I like to use head turns as an easy way of describing it to players, how to get a better game sense. And just by looking at this video clip, this is a great clip. If you look at the winger up top here, De La Rose, how many times he does a head turn and read in this game. And also look if the positioning, if you have a drawing, this is your position as a forward in the D zone, look where he's skating around. See if the video goes.
Should have upgraded past Windows 95.
Yeah, great question. I think it's something with the stream or something, because it worked before. It's better to use it without the full screen. There it is. I don't need a sound on. I just need the video to move a little bit smoother. Is that possible? No, it's just hacks. Not possible, or to get it a little bit smoother, the video. Just go like this.
It might be smoother if you start it over, because it looks like it's buffering you.
Let's see. Yes, it's a file. Here it is. Look at the head turns. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's up the blue line. 5. So in this clip, he was basically in the about 30–40% of the D zone. If you look at into a perspective that you should stand still in your best position as a winger is difficult. But in the video example, you see as a winger in the D zone, you have to use the head turns a lot to get to your right position. If you look at hard and early back check, any coaches that like that? Nobody? Yeah, I got one. Take the next clip, it's better. Here it is. We got stuck. We are the white team, said say. We got stuck in the corner. I like to work with my forwards, just always early hard back check. That's the main thing. After that, you can read. But if you look at Marcus Kruger over here, that's on hard and early back check. He stops the rush. We can get pressure right away, and we stop that 3-on-2 on the blue line. This is easy, basic ideas, but it's difficult to measure a hard and early back check with a number. But it's very important for the outcome of the game. Communication to solve situations. This is one of my favorite clips. It's not a super cool clip. I couldn't get the sound on this. This is actually Rasmus Dahlin's dad being a coach here. This also explains a little bit on how Rasmus become such a good playing defenseman. He's coaching the defensemen to solve situations by themselves in practice. I think this is the #1 key that Sweden has a lot of good playing defensemen. That's the coaching style. It's also difficult to measure a coaching style. We heard, was it Ethan talking about playing in the middle? One of the student projects. This is what they do here. They talk about the D is explaining where he wants the player to be. And the coach talk about it. This is the play I want to make. I want the support guy in the middle who gets the puck. And this is 16, 17-year-old players working with this. And they explain to the coach how they want to do it. They are talking. They are building up their strengths of playing the puck to get out of these hard situations. And if you look to a game, how often do you have a controlled breakout versus an breakout under pressure? It's so much more under pressure, and that's the difficult part to use. And we also have, for example, box out sticks in front of the net is also difficult to get a number. Having a good tight gap control, same thing there. I'm not saying that analytics evaluation is good. I like it as well, but it's easy to forget that a lot of the activities that we do in hockey is difficult to measure. And just because we can't measure it doesn't mean it's not important. I also like to check different areas about these measurement points. And I find a study a couple of years ago from Maron Shib at Luleå University. He was looking at companies, how they measure success. And he was using the key performance indicators and the critical success factors. And the KPI, the measurable values used by organizations to evaluate their success at reading targets. And the critical success factor is used to measure the progress made toward achieving a specific target. So we have the goal of the KPI, and we have the factors to get to the goal and the target. And the summary of his study was a lot of the companies focus more on the result, the KPIs, than on doing the right activities, the critical success factors to get good results. And in hockey, you need the KPIs. You need to know what you want to do. You need to know that if you get the puck inside of the slot area with a pass, it's easier to create a scoring chance and a goal than if you're not doing it. But you also need to have a mindset that you need to do activities outside of this area, because you can't just go there and pass the puck every time. It's going to be opponents there. It's going to happen stuff. So you need some outside critical success factors to achieve it. And I'm going to explain more with a couple of examples. If you look at a playbook example for, say, we have a KPI. We have an indicator that we want to stop shots in our own slot. One of the things you can do is to just shrink and be tight in the middle. You stop it, but if you play like that, you're going to have a lot of zone time in your own zone, which is going to end up with other stuff. A critical success factors can be that you, instead of shrinking, you play aggressively in the corners. You spread out, you put pressure to stop zone time from the opponents. And in that case, you stop shots from the slot. So that's the balance of it. If you look into a clip, here's a Zurich clip as well. We have a guy going very hard, putting pressure. Instead of shrinking the middle, he goes and put pressure and force that bad play for even being in the zone. Instead of shrinking into the middle, we go aggressively. Here we have a longer situation. We have a team that tries to spread us out, but we have an aggressive forward who goes hard straight away for the puck. We're connecting, playing it hard. We have a defenseman joining right away instead of being passive. We're picking up the guys in the middle. We are still tight in the middle. We are protecting the house, but we are playing aggressively to force that team from getting success. So it's not always the easiest solution to stop a shot in the slot is to shrink, but maybe that's not the best solution of it, if you understand what I mean. Another example, we want a lot of passes into the slot in the offensive zone. But a key for that can be that we have a lot of quick ups because we put the opponents in a difficult situation when we get into the zone. If you look at a clip from Germany right before the World Championship in Munich, I was watching a game. Here they play in the D zone. They have a quick up, they're finding the middle. They're getting into the zone by carrying it. And here we have the pass into the slot for a tap-in goal. So I think a good thing to have in mind is to look behind the numbers, to look what we can do in the situations before to get the good numbers. And I also think this is a crucial way for, if I separate analytics staff and coaching staff, I don't want to separate it. I want this to be together. But I think this is a crucial part of the understanding of both sides. It's very important to connect. When we build a playbook in Zurich, this was the first picture of the play without the puck. Intense first actions. We want a lot of head turns and we want a lot of communication. I know a lot of coaches have this in mind, but I think this is easy and it's important, but it's also difficult to measure. If you go further on with the presentation, one thing I also like with all of these great websites and platforms is that it's so much easier to create pre-scouts on opponents. It's a perfect way of getting a good picture. I like to see both, depending on, let's say I'm in a team in Zurich and scouting. It's difficult to watch a lot of games because you have games and games and games. Now with the World Championship, I was only doing pre-scouts. Maybe having 3 games, watching the full games to get the balance, but also go to the platforms, check the last control breakouts, check the last turnovers in the offensive zone. So I get both the full picture and the specifics of it, and also to use the stats. If you look into a situation from the Swiss League, before a playoff, we have 52 games that we can look on statistics. And this is the numbers that I showed to the players. It was a lot of numbers first for me, shrink it down to the coaches, and then for the players, it's just the basic stuff. So Biel, they were offensively a pretty good team. They were 4th in rushes and 3rd in offensive zone, expected goals. And when you look into the video, what do they do? Biel is one of those teams that I really like offensively, how they play. It's difficult to play them because they have a very creative way of playing with the puck. It's a lot of drop passes, a lot of curl ups, there's a lot of second wave attacks, which is difficult. Here we have one guy against four. We have a curl up, finding late guys joining, and then attacking. So for us in this situation, it was to turn our heads. This is from earlier of the season. We have a bad gap. And they can attack with drop passes. They can create really great situations. Here they have a counter-attack as well when they go. So for us against Biel, it was very important with head turns and communication, because a lot of times me as a forward coach, I think sometimes it's easier to play 2-on-2 in the D zone than being on top of the guys. Let's say we are 4 back and they are 2. A lot of forwards get very passive, they just stand still, and then there's 2 guys who can attack anyways. If it's 2-on-2, it's easy to just take 1 guy out. So for the other guys, watch what's going on behind you, see where are the dangerous players. Biel also had a defensive weakness. It was turnover goals in the zone. They were 12th in the league over that season, but they were number 1 in the D zone and off the rush. So for us, this was to attack and get turnovers on them. And then we look through the video. You see some situations from the season for our players to see how to attack. Here we get a turnover and a goal after that. And they're trying to build up. They're trying to get down with a lot of players to play like the Swedish sport bandy, going down, which is difficult when you're building up speed. But teams have been successful against that, creating turnovers on them. So this is a basic example how you can take the stats and get it to the players. And for me, when you do it, it's very important to have the video connect, because that's easy to see for everybody. I'm not in the mood of talking Latvia, but I'm still going to throw this one in. This was a few numbers that we watched before the quarterfinal against them. They were number 1. They had a lot of stats that were really low, but they were number 1 in shot attempts blocked, which you can also see in the game we played them, which was a big key for us that we couldn't succeed on. This was a clip from the scouting report, how they throw themselves and playing old school defensive play, a lot of throwing guys into the shooting lane, but they were going hard at it. And also with the audience and the stands going crazy, this was successful for them. But for us, we were working on a lot of shot fakes for the defensemen coming in, doing a shot fake, releasing, getting out, which you're going to see. In the end, they were low in the inner slot area defensively, which was a key for us to use. Here we see a longer clip of Switzerland having a long situation in the offensive zone. They're trying to play passively in the middle, being in the shooting lane, but with different movements from Switzerland. In the end, they lost track of it. They have a defensive move going inside when the puck is coming up. Latvia lost that area. And here they want to be 2 guys in the shooting lane with a fake into the middle. And then we have the pass into the slot, and we have 1 Tiber over the center line, a lot of good statistic stuff in that clip. One thing that's also difficult to measure is how a crowd can build up a team like Latvia had in Riga. That was insane. It was the loudest game I've ever been to. The arena itself is very echo-ish, if you understand what I mean. It's a lot of crazy sounds going on, high volume, every time they got the puck out of the zone, the fans shouted like there was a scoring chance. Insane game. One thing I also like is it's easy to find inspirational clips for individual development, which is important when you work with a team, that each player have something to work with. And with the statistic and video websites, it's perfect for that. You can check goals, you can check different things. Before, if you just go back a few years, 10 years, when we didn't have this, you have to tag the games yourself. You could find goals, but it was difficult to find good back checks some way. We had Texie from Columbus in ZSL last season. He had our power play was flowing in the preseason. It was crazy. And then at the first power play of the season, Texie got a crush kick in the back and broke his arm. And then we had the worst PP for 5 games. So it was a tough start, but I had an opportunity to work with Texie on ice with that broken hand, to check some different style of work. This is an old but gold clip from the Swede Philip Forsberg. I call it the inside skate fake. It's very common. A lot of forwards use it on every level. Look at Philip, what he's doing here in the neutral zone. He skates inwards a little bit to get the skates of the defenseman crisscrossing. He goes outside, the slick move, and then scores on it. That little fake in the middle, we could work with even with a broken hand with Texie. Take it from there. That was the inspiration for him. And then we went out on the ice, working on it. He has a broken hand, so he's not going that hard, but he works on the skate. He goes releasing it out. We add in a hip opener and a cutback and then an attack. And as I said in the beginning of the presentation, we work with do it in the game. And how does it look in the game? Can we use it? Here's a power play breakout, goes inside. No, it's a 5-on-5, sorry. Inside, release it out, goes through, stick under the puck under the stick. We have a cutback, finding second lane attack, get a screen guy, and almost a goal. And this is also good when you have these video platforms. You can get these kind of styles. You get something to the players to develop them and have a good conversation with them even during injuries. And it's also important that we don't forget the basics of learning. This is the learning channels we have. We have the visual when we see to learn. We have the auditorio when we hear to learn. And we have the kinesthetics when we move to learn. And this is how you learn. And some people are more visual, is the most common way of doing it. And then you can use the video feedback. You can use the statistic numbers to learn more about it. But of course, in hockey, you have to do the move to learn the stuff that you want to do. Otherwise, I would be great in hockey because I've seen so much, but I'm not that good. Same with golf. I've seen a lot of golf. I'm not good at that either. So it doesn't work for me. Also, what I like is that we're not forgetting the mirror neurons, which see no difference in the activity if you see somebody do it or if you do it yourself. But this is common knowledge when you work with video feedback, but it's still important to have in the back of the head that you can learn a lot by it. You can use that in a way of video feedback individually, team video feedback, we don't have the opportunity to do practices. And for me also, great information to support the coaches' game reports. I really like the coaches' input together with video and analytics is a really good way of getting a lot of knowledge in. But it's important for us to funnel it down to the team with the individual feedback and the team report. And one way of doing it is scoring chances, which is common. It's not a super heavy stat. I think if you look at Sport Logic last season in NHL, there was around 55-56% of the teams winning the inner slot shots that won the game. So still on the plus side, but there's still other parts that are important. But in this game, I like to take out those different areas. This is what we show the players. They see what we want to show them is that we need to be better on entries against. That was the highest number. The team that we played have 8 chances on us. Other parts of the game, we did good. And this was in the playoffs. We played them the next day again. So we need to tighten up that red 8 up there. And it's a good way of just getting it down, finding something to work on, use statistics, use video, use whatever works for you. But it's always good to have something else than just the coach's opinion. It's always to connect everything. To summarize it, I think basic and easy is a good way to get a coaching staff on board with analytics. I think myself included, watching metrics, watching statistics, I think it's difficult to get all the information in. And I've been involved with companies getting it in. I think myself, I have a basic to good knowledge, but I still think it's very difficult to get everything in. And it's a lot of coaches out there that's not used to this. I think that's a great barrier to break, to get it in there. And when you want to present it to a coach or to a player, try to always have a video clip to show, because it's so much easier for them to understand it than just a number. And evaluate, very important. I love to evaluate. I can sit hours to watch videos. I can watch statistics. I like to do my own studies, watching clips and numbers and get it in there. But focus on the activities to get the good stats in the end. Always have something there to bring to the team. That's it for me. Any questions?
Thanks for a good talk. If you can talk a little bit about when we talk about stats. First, we have goals and assists, and then we have events like control entries and shots and things like that. But I think you're talking about behaviors.
Yes.
But are we measuring the behaviors? It's also stats. If you're measuring if you are intense in the first situation, hard back check, it's a behavior. What do you think about, can it be something for future to measure the behavior? Because I think, my own opinion, that's what coaches do,
yes.
Work with behaviors. What do you think about that?
Thank you for that question. That was a good question. I think it's exactly on point, on target with that. It's behaviors that coaches look at, but it's also difficult to measure. I mean, you can create models for it, but it's not going to be scientifically proven. But it can be that you measure your players or your team yourself, what you have. But people are smarter than me, and maybe they can take a behavior number into the different platforms. But I think that's the most important thing to get from the statistics all the way down to it, to get that behavior. Good input. Anything else? Yes.
A bit about the head turns.
Yes.
In football, I think they call it scans per second.
Perfect.
And I think it's possible that they can create something to
yes.
actually measure it. But do you have an idea how many scans per second or per 10 seconds that would be?
I haven't seen that number. It was a very interesting number. But we did, when I was at the federation, we did a study of youth hockey. We wanted to play hockey on a smaller surface to get more head turns, to get more intense battles, to get more skating. And then we had a company that, can't remember which one it was, but we did both video and we did statistics and we did, it's not called GPS inside. What's the word of that? You know what I mean? You put up trackers outside. Exactly. So they measured the head turns, but I stopped working there before we ended that study, so I don't remember the numbers. But that was, I talked to the guys after, there was a lot of more head turns when we play a smaller surface for the kids to use that. So I forgot your question. I was just talking myself. What was it?
What number of head turns?
Yeah, I don't have I have no idea. I did it with a player. He was like this. He had one of the best shots, but he couldn't get shots off in the game. But he also was a great skater, had everything in place. But in the D zone, he was standing like this all the time. So head turns was the main key for him to do. So I showed him exactly that clip that I showed you guys. And the next practice, he was standing like this for the whole. And then he got onto the bench. And I got dizzy. I can't move. It was 30 seconds. So I mean, it's not in there for everybody. And I think also the head turns is the easiest way to get better game sense, especially if you're a older player. I talked to coach, yeah, but he's 30. He has that game sense. Yeah, but you can still give him the stuff to get a better game sense with easy situations like that. Yes.
Thanks for the presentation, Johan. I wanted to ask you more about pre-scouting methodology. Something that I find questioning myself sometimes in my own work is trying to be able to distinguish and have the confidence when you're watching video, for example, that this is a truth about how a team as a whole plays versus finding something that is perhaps more of just an individual player's stylistic preference, or perhaps someone even going off script. And ideally, you know the team and the players well enough over a large enough sample size to know when something's just an individual player that has a particular strength and weakness or stylistic preference versus something that's a truth about a team system as a whole. So curious how you think about that distinction, or how if that's something that you think about in your pre-scouting work.
Yeah, we had one example now from the World Championship with Finland, and they play a lot of outside shots with 1 or 2 screens, high tips, but they had a line with Heiskanen, Rantanen, and Manninen, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, and they did a lot of different style. They were going very hard with Heiskanen behind the net, protecting the puck. They wanted teams to go at him, and then he can find some pucks behind. But it was only him and Rantanen doing it, but they were so effective of it. So that was a big key in the presentation, just with those individual players. You need to watch out for this. But also to bring the teams, how they usually play the other lines is mostly just throwing in stuff from the outside. So they have both ideas of it. And I think that's very important to see in a video. And in that game against Finland, they had a good couple of situations, but we took away most of those situations.
I have a question. It's not a test because I have no idea. You talk a lot about there is a lot of things that we don't measure.
Yeah.
Can measure today. Could you give a percentage of how many percentage of situations, things in ice hockey that are really important are not measured today? Do you understand the question?
Yeah. It's difficult just with a percentage. I know everybody in here likes percentages, but I think one of those, there was a slide I showed with some different types, like a hard back check, a tight gap control, head turns. Maybe it's possible to get, like you said, you had it in football. We have more coaching styles. And it's going to be, I mean, hockey is a game, so it's not going to be possible to measure everything, even if we want to do it. I remember now a talk, it's a very famous Swedish, I think it's a brain, not a neurologist, but he does some science and discussions about the brain on TV. It's called Anders Hansen, I think he talks a lot about that. And he said in one of his clips that the brain of a human being is, they want an easy solution. That's how we are programmed. So if you have difficult solutions, we want the easiest one because it feels more natural for us. We feel better because if this is the only way of doing it, then we do that. But with a game of hockey, with opponents out there, with so many different styles of play, it's not going to be possible to have an easy solution to everything. It's going to be what I learned during my years, which I think is difficult, that I can't control exactly what's going on. And I think that's for all the coaches. It's impossible to control everything, but you can get in and control a little bit about everything and try to get it in. And it's not scientifically, but it's just how it is with a game. If you have other games like, I know it's, let's say for golf, for example, an individual sport, but you stand still, there's no players hitting you, nothing is going on. It's easy to get numbers and statistics. Same with baseball, you have the same place you're standing, you have the different areas that you stand, opponents are standing still. It's easier to get numbers who are more connected to the actual game, if you understand what I mean.
So I had a question. So I really like one of the statements that you made where it was, okay, I got the feeling you almost looked for the sort of high key performance indication events, and then you looked at what's happened so leading up to that event. And then you sort of, it's reinforced learning in some sense that, okay, I see this works and I get good events, etc. But is there a risk with us doing that, or should we have other metrics that actually give us like these events that you then end up learning from watching the videos? Or should we have different metrics to pick those out? And then
I think it's also, I know what Team Sweden was doing. They were using these kind of situations. They were using KPIs. They were doing the critical success factors, just putting out what's important for your team. And this is what coaches have been doing a lot. You take out that we want to be intense in the forecheck. We want to do this. We want to have quick ups. We want to do this. But it's also good for, if you put it on a paper, if you have it, and then you have the success factors, how you do it, and then you can connect it with the analytics staff as well. For it's not going to be scientifically proven, but it can still be measurable, and the analytics staff can look at situations also, not only always the numbers.
And so today's tools, do they allow you to? So I mean, there's a lot of tagging in SportLogic in these systems for some sort of events, etc. So I mean, I don't work with those systems myself, but I'm just curious, is there ways with those systems to say, okay, this is my key performance indicator, and can I get all the events where I score high on those things?
Yes, I've been working working with different kind of platforms, man, and all the platforms have something that I can use with. They have a different style of how it looks, but I mean, the last few years have been amazingly. I mean, all the companies have great websites. You can find the stats, you can find the clips, and it's easy to get it in there if you want it to. And I know some companies have an expected from a game, you can see the expected goals. You can see the clips very easily, very fast right after the game to watch it. So it's not only a number. I think it's out there, but it's going to be still humans or coaches or analytics team that look at it and measure it.
And I suppose even if I would just have the raw data, I mean, I could just get the timestamps and then just look up those.
Exactly, and to see what it is.